All right. I'm very excited to introduce our next guests. They do something that is very unique in our industry. They're a law firm of 3 who are dedicated only to dentists. There are some law firms that have a dentist or a lawyer or 2 that are dedicated to dentists, but no other law firm that I'm aware of anywhere has a corporation that's dedicated a law firm just to dentists. So you know that you're going to get some amazing information here today. This threesome, I guess we could call it. They're like the rock stars of the dental industry, so I'm proud to introduce you to the DMC Law Firm. So the bio is David, Michael, and Lubisa are a dynamic legal trio whose law firm DMC Law caters exclusively to dentists. They primarily help Ontario dentists buy, sell practice, or start up their own practice. Dentists can stay informed with their website, www.dentistlawyers.ca, which has hundreds of free articles, videos, and their comprehensive ebook, Ontario Dental Law. Dentists can also go on their website, dentistlegal.forums.com, to create important legal documents in a cost-effective, convenient manner, such as wills, powers of attorney, letters of intent to purchase a dental practice. All their legal forms come with lawyer review. So an amazing service, isn't it? And they just launched a new website, dentalplace.ca, which allows dentists to advertise the sale of their practice, save money, and avoid legal headaches. DMC Law is actively involved in the dental industry. They regularly present to dentists at industry events, study clubs, dental schools, and dental destination courses. Michael regularly writes for the Ontario Dentist and Oral Health magazines. They've recently established a dental outreach program in Jamaica, awesome, that sees dentists and dental students volunteer while getting to stay at Sandals. Kind of a luxury too.
For free.
For free. Even better. Your accountant will tell you that. And they're recently featured in National Post and Globe and Mail for their unique approach to legal services. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome DMC Law.
So I'm Michael, and that's David.
Hello.
You will confuse us. You will call him Michael, and you will call me David. It's perfectly fine. It happens. And this is Lubisa. Lubisa, do you want to stand up? She's the pretty one. Second pretty, and David.
I wish that wasn't true.
All right, let's see if this works. It's not working. There we go. So you want to be the boss. Who can tell me what movie this image is from?
Who said that?
Amazing. It's the best movie. Office Space is the answer. I'm so glad that you guys are still awake after eating that heavy meal. I saw a lot of you with like 2 and 3 rolls and a lot of pasta. I think she deserves a prize.
I think you deserve a prize.
What do we got today, David?
Whatever's in David John Yadin's pocket.
Oh, it's a lottery ticket. Are we giving out lottery tickets today?
Only if we get 50% of the winnings.
Oh, okay. So there's a few things. Yes, it's a verbal contract. Don't mess with lawyers. We will come after you for the money. Those CEREC machines are expensive. But if you win, I mean, you get to pay DCY his fees, you get to buy new CEREC machines, you can buy a practice, and your lawyers take half. Keep in mind. Okay, you want to be the boss. Here's my advice. Get educated, protect yourself at all times, and save money. Save money, make money. We're going to hit all 3 throughout our quick presentation. First website. You guys have cell phones? Some of you have cell phones? Whip them out. Go on this website right now. Bookmark it. Dentistlawyers.ca. Here's what it looks like. David, what's on there?
My face, your face, and all the things you guys need to know. A lot of answers to all of your questions.
What else can they get on our website?
The ebook we wrote on Ontario Dental Law, which has more answers to the questions that you guys haven't even started to ask yet.
How many pages is it?
Too many. It'll put you to sleep after the first 5. When you wake up, read the next 195 pages.
Yeah, it's pretty long. It's got our collective knowledge in there. Read it before you call us, but we're happy to chat. You can also read our articles. Some are more controversial than others. We try to keep it real. Okay, what about this? Travel and learn. Listen, I don't think my wife's going to stick around unless I take her places. Dentists as a group are fun to travel with, so we kind of combine the two. We do a lot of these travel and learn type situations. Bermuda, what do we got on the go? Turks coming up, Jamaica, and David's going to Disney. I think I lucked out. Who here has been to beaches? 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 Yes. Only one person has been to beaches? You're all going to go next September through our volunteer program. We'll get into that. Okay? Dentist legal forms. So stay informed. This is protect yourself. Okay? You don't want to pay us the big bucks. It's fine. We get it. We're going to say, you guys go and do most of the work yourself on this website, and we'll review it. You save 2/3 of the price. Wills, powers of attorney, you guys all need that. When you're buying a practice, letters of intent, right? What does it look like? It's kind of like a cool little questionnaire. Spits out a couple of documents. Those are actually my wills. Everyone's squinting now. They're like, what did he put for his wife? Yeah. Primary and secondary will. Who here knows anything about corporate wills other than David Chung Yan? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. When you incorporate, to save on taxes, you should have a corporate will and a non-corporate will. Absolutely. The corporate will never gets shown to the court. No taxes are paid. You save a lot of money. Okay? We'll move on. Lawyer review. Comes. I think that's a great shot of Lubisa and I, don't you? Yeah? I think Lubisa looks stunning. I'm okay. Gonna have to do something with that face. All right. Buying a dental practice. Here's what we're all here to learn, right? Dentalplace.ca, it's our quick new venture Ross was just mentioning. We've got some listings. I mean, you heard DCY say, go onto these websites, subscribe, you'll see all the listings. Here's one of them. If you're on your phone right now, go to that website, subscribe, bookmark it. This is what it looks like. That's a listing we've got right now. Okay, now we're going to talk about the process of buying a dental practice. Who here has seen an appraisal before? Yeah? They more or less look like that, right? Who prepares appraisals? Nobody wants a lottery ticket? Come on, it's an easy one. I'm giving you
The brokerage.
Okay, great. Who does the brokerage company work for? Sellers. Great. So if you're a buyer, should you take everything in there at its face? Who typically would review an appraisal for you?
The accounting.
DCY, in the back. We can do it too, yeah. Okay, good. Next step. Get a team of trusted advisors.
The untouchable.
Oh, close. Okay, so basically your team of trusted advisors, it would include me. I like to think of myself as Elliot Ness, and there's a bunch of Davids around me. Okay, lottery ticket to who can identify all three Davids? And they also happen to be in this room. Lottery ticket to Dean. Get your banker, get your accountant, get your lawyers.
I think you just sent me on these ventures, so I don't have to do it.
Okay, letter of intent. So you've got your appraisal. Now you want to put an offer on it. Who here knows what a letter of intent is? So you basically want the key terms of the letter of intent. David, have we seen some really bad LOIs, letters of intent out there?
Yes, we've actually seen ones on cocktail napkins where it was just a price and a name and pushed across the table.
Yeah, and the dentists come to us and say, here's the letter of intent, make it happen. And what do we say?
Do you want bank financing? Do you want a condition where you get to do a chart audit? Do you want your accountant to review the books and records of the company? Things like that. So, will there be an association afterwards between the selling dentist and the purchasing dentist? What might the terms of that association be? What are you going to do with the staff? Do you want to keep going? Do I get a lottery ticket? Work in progress? How do you deal with the accounts receivable? Etc.
Good. So key terms. So if someone is asking you to sign a letter of intent without all these key terms, what are you going to do?
Refuse.
You should refuse. Who should you go see? Not Ghostbusters, but your lawyers, right? Because we put these together. I'll give you an example. We got lots of letters of intent on asset deals, and there's a purchase price, and it's signed, and everyone says, okay, go ahead. And we'll say, I mean, there's some leaseholds. Is HST included or not included? And they'll say, oh, I don't know.
That actually turns into a really big fight on a lot of deals. If you don't specify how you might handle the leasehold improvements or the HST issue, you have to speak to your accountant about this. Absolutely. Talk to DCY at the back. He can help explain this to you. It's a really key term in an offer.
Is HST included or not included in the purchase price? Super simple, but it could end up costing thousands because somebody missed it, right? Good news is you can always go back to our website and create the letter of intent using our wizard. Okay. After the parties have agreed upon a letter of intent, next step is due diligence. All right. I want the best answer. If you listen to David talk, you're going to have at least, I want like 5 points. What does due diligence entail? What is the purchaser going to do to find out if what he's buying or she is buying is actually what is represented to them? 5 things. Really good. Dean, you're not allowed to play. Go. Anybody? Yes.
Number of active patients.
Number of active patients. Chart count. Keep going.
Oh, E? Okay, I'll let somebody
You want to?
else
Okay.
answer.
David, you got a lottery ticket for it?
That's good sharing. I think she already got one.
Sure, you got one?
I have one.
We're gonna practice our sharing as well.
Okay, I'm going to take her lottery ticket. Yeah, go ahead.
Employee contracts, associate agreements.
Okay, you want to check them, review them? Who's going to review them for you? Hopefully. I mean, you don't want to give them to Dave Shelton. That makes too much sense, right? Okay.
Purchasing the building or lease.
Take a look at the lease. Yeah, for sure. Or the building if it's being sold. That's 3 really good. What else we got?
The lease is actually a really big one. Remember, we're going to come back to it.
Reputation. That's interesting. You want to do due diligence on the reputation? We had a situation where during our due diligence we discovered that the seller was bankrupt, undischarged. And when you go bankrupt, that means you don't have the right to deal with your assets. So when we discovered that in due diligence, guess what happened? We had to start dealing with the trustee in bankruptcy for this seller. And that made things really different because he, the seller, can't actually sign documents on his own behalf. All of his assets are over to the trustee. So it's great. Yeah, reputation. What else? Take a look at the financial due diligence, for sure. Who's going to help you out there? I mean, most of the answers to the question is DCY. Just everyone turn around and just say, DCY is going to help out, right? Okay. I mean, he's helped out with chart audits, accounting, financial due diligence, great stuff. What else?
Services,
What do you mean?
like what they offer for services, if they are referring a lot or they're giving them.
For sure. You're going to take a look. Typically in the appraisal, they have breakdowns of that. What else? We're missing a big one. I mean, it's big, but active patients is big, but also, what are you guys buying?
Cash flow.
Cash flow, yes. Financial due
Goodwill.
diligence.
Goodwill.
You guys are buying goodwill, but what other than goodwill are you buying?
Location.
Who said assets? Equipment. So who do you want to send in there to take a look at the equipment? Patterson. Not DCY for once. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. David, any examples of horror stories we've heard about or seen? When
For equipment.
Yeah, for equipment.
We had a practice transition. There was an acquisition. Our client went in, actually brought someone from her equipment company because it wasn't the first practice she was purchasing. They took pictures, they got all the serial numbers, they looked at all the X-ray equipment to deal with HARP compliance. And then on the day of closing, when exchanged the keys and our client went in, the selling dentist had swapped out parts and pieces from the X-rays, and the serial numbers and the parts didn't align. And all of a sudden, what was new equipment turned into old equipment. That was a big problem, so it was good that the equipment was checked ahead of time.
Yeah, because typically in the legal paperwork, they're going to have somewhere in there, typically at the end, a list of all the equipment that you are buying. And if it doesn't match up, it turns into probably like a lawsuit for the seller, right? So equipment inspection. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of the due diligence, right? Am I missing anything? Employee agreements. Why are these so important? Why do you want, as a purchaser, the employees to be on contract? And let's start with the associates. Here's a very simple question. If the associate does not have a written contract with the principal, can they set up shop across the street, compete, take staff with them? Can they solicit patients? Do they get access to records of the patients that they worked on? What do you guys think? Can they do all of those things if there's no written contract in place? Who here says no? They can't. Oh, sorry.
Okay, you're not getting a lottery ticket. There were too many yeses, but you are correct. The answer is yes.
Yeah, courts have said that if you don't have a written contract and you're the exclusive provider of dental services to a patient, you're entitled to do all those things and get copies of the patient records. Okay? And there's also RCDSO obligations on the seller to notify patients if you leave where you went. Okay? So we have seen, I'm pretty sure we've seen some deals where there was no contracts. What do you think happened with those deals? Did they close as is? Absolutely not. We do not let purchasers buy those types of practices. Right, David?
There were struggles, and it can affect. Sometimes when you find warts, and most practices have a couple of warts, some are bigger than others, but it really can affect either what the ultimate purchase price is or whether there's going to be problems with closing.
Now I want to talk about something called notice. huge liability. I mean, leases are a disaster, but notice is as bad. A lot of you think of it as the word severance. Who here has heard the word severance, employee severance? Okay, we're never going to say that word again. Promise? Promise? There's no such thing as severance when it comes to a dental practice. Right, David?
It's correct. There is severance, but dental practices usually don't qualify as a severance employer, so
So-
we don't forget severance.
Let's all say notice together on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Notice. If I hear anybody saying the word severance again, that's it. You owe me a bottle of tequila. I'm sorry. And I'm a tequila guy, by the way. Okay, so what is notice, David?
Do I win?
No.
All right. So let's ask someone in the audience.
Okay, what do you guys think notice is? And it has to do with employees.
It's another word for severance.
Anyone else?
Yeah. We're not using severance anymore. It's gone. It left. It's done. I'm going to close the door behind it and lock the door. So notice, it's an amount of time or payment instead of that time that you have to give an employee as the employer in order to terminate them. Okay, there's two types of notice. Do you know which? Let's make this a lottery prize. What are the two types of notice?
Money and time.
David, you want to explain?
Okay, so on one hand, there's statutes, so laws made by the government. And there's a regime that says if you are terminating an employee, then you have to give them X number of weeks, and it matches up to number of years of service to a cap. That's what you have on the notice side, and that's under the Employment Standards Act. On the other side, you have what someone might call judge-made law. So cases get before the court, litigation ensues, and the judges make decisions which then become law. And in the judge-made decisions, they say there's no golden rule, there's a golden rule, there's not really a golden rule, but you're looking at roughly 1 month for every year to a cap of about 24 months.
Wow. That's a
Big
lot
difference.
of time. So think about it. You're going to buy a practice. None of the employees have a contract in place, which means the common law would govern that situation. You know, that 1 month per year rule.
That's what the judges are making.
So if you want to buy this practice and you're just going to assume all these employees, you're going to maybe also assume that huge liability if you want to get rid of someone. You can't just walk in and just fire them and just give them no notice. And you'll say, well, that's fair. I just took it over. I'm like, that's my first day. Yeah, but you inherited. Okay, so there are certain ways that lawyers can help you not inherit that huge liability. Just to give you an idea, there was a practice that was we were involved in, and the liability for all, I don't know, let's say 15 staff was something like $200,000. And when we discovered it during due diligence, there was no contracts in place, and there was a lot of long-term employees, and the purchaser had no idea if they were going to keep these people on. They're like, whoa, we can't do this deal until and unless you either put all these people on contract and limit that liability for a purchaser, or you have to absorb that liability after the deal if I decide to get rid of somebody. Or reduce the purchase price. So in this situation, the purchase price was reduced by about $100,000. That's huge, right?
If we're going to go back and to use DCY's expression, like what's the takeaway from the slide that Michael just gave you? The answer is this. The more things you set out at the beginning, so you have your deal on the table, the less risk there is down the road, the less talking points down the road, the less negotiations which can upset a deal, because all you guys want, get in there, buy the practice, start doing your good clinical work. The sellers, they want to get you in there, they want to sell the practice and either continue on with associating or come with us down to Jamaica or wherever we're going on our next CE course.
So what we do as lawyers representing purchasers is in the letter of intent, remember that napkin with the purchase prices and the two signatures on it, we want to put stuff in there to protect you when it comes to employee liability. Okay? Employee liability is huge. It's probably not as huge as this guy. You guys have not had the pleasure of meeting the landlord, have you? Oh my goodness. Every single deal we do, these guys are the devil. And I'm sure you can talk to Ian Toms about demolition and relocation clauses, and it's pretty brutal. I mean, your deal could be as smooth as pie up until this person gets involved. David, what does this person actually want to allow the lease to be transferred from the seller to the buyer? What does this person want?
At the end of the day, the landlords want all reward, no risk. They want as much money as they can from you guys, and they want to collect guarantees and signatures to make sure at the end of the day, no matter what, they're going to get paid and have no expenses.
Do we have any horror stories?
Actually, yeah. The we actually had one the other day. Okay, so on a practice transition that's going on right now, our client is the purchaser. Our client's going, everything's done, the deal gets done, everything's great, and now we approach the landlord to assign the lease to our client. There's a demolition clause in the lease.
Do you want to quickly explain what a demo clause is?
Demolition clauses take different forms, but essentially what they can say is if we're going to demolish the building, then we have the right to kick you out. Take your practice, go elsewhere, which is a really big problem for you guys, because you have to find space quick, there's moving costs involved, and the banks, as a general rule, when they're going to finance you, they want to be able to ensure that the loan they're giving you is safe. They want to see X number of safe years in the practice that you're buying. So there's a demolition clause, and they can include not just tearing down a building. We've seen ones where it says, if you ask us to assign your lease to someone else, that's an act of demolition. If you're not producing enough, which they have really no right to, but if you're not producing enough, that's an act of demolition. If you try to open on the weekends, that's an act of demolition. So you got to be really careful. It's not just we're going to tear down the building and put up a condo, or we're going to tear down and put up a shopping plaza. It can be just about anything, and those demolition clauses are killers. And you know what the landlord said? You want my permission to assign the lease, and you want that demolition clause out, $25,000. And that's what they charged. And then the deal came to a grinding halt. Because who's paying that money? How is that deal going to get done when the landlord's saying, not only that, but I want a percentage of your billings, which you all know or should know, you can't fee split with landlords.
Landlords, I mean, we've seen some really bad things. Landlords say, yeah, okay, we'll allow you to transfer. We need 1% of the purchase price.
Yeah, terrible.
Or, technically, according to the lease, we own the leaseholds. So we need $100,000.
Actually, if I can jump in terms of protecting your practice, so when you become practice owners, if you're not practice owners already, it's really important to have a phenomenal lease, because the value of your practice and what you can sell your practice for, aside from having staff contracts and associate agreements, if you can have a really good lease, you can command a good price for your practice. A bad lease can wipe out half the value of your practice overnight. And we had a situation. Do you want to maybe share?
$1 million practice, $1 million appraised.
Retirement plan for the dentist.
Purchased at $540,000. Can anybody guess why? Because of the lease. Specifically, who said that? Lottery ticket.
And the landlord actually said we will be demolishing.
Oh yeah, we've seen $800,000 practices sell for $500,000 because of a demolition clause. I feel so bad for the sellers.
Terrible.
We represented the buyers in those situations, so we were. But I mean, half the value lost because of a demolition clause. Please, they're so important. We've seen brutal leases. I think the worst lease in the world said, every year you have to, as the dentist, give me, the landlord, audited financial statements.
Terrible.
Does anybody know what's involved in getting audited financial statements? Not just financial statements, but David, how much would audited financial statements for a dental practice cost on an annual basis?
More than they want to pay. Oh, sorry, that David?
That David.
Brother David.
Truckload of cash. Yeah.
Or what the other David has in the trunk of his car today.
David Chilton, yeah, for sure, from TD. So it was just, we've seen some real nasty things, some real brutal things. And there are clever ways to get around it.
No, good negotiation.
Good negotiation, yeah.
If there's anchor tenants in the building as well, maybe there's a bank or a shopping plaza, or maybe like a bay or a department store, they might already have no demolition clause, and maybe you can align yourselves with them. But there's tips and strategies you can do. But the trick is, for getting a really top-notch practice or getting your practice into tip-top shape, this is a serious issue that you guys have to look at, and not the day you're selling, and not a month before you're selling. Look at this a good year or two out, even 3 years, and really get yourself healthy in preparation for a transaction.
Speak to people like Ian Toms. Speak to us, and we will. And it affects your purchase price. Your whole deal could hinge on this. So really important. Okay, once you've done your due diligence, you've dealt with the lease and you've dealt with the employees and whether they're on contract. Next comes the formal agreements. These things are the meat and potato documents. They're 40 to 100 pages long. They've got lots of schedules. Your entire deal. We kill a lot of papers, unfortunately. Next step. You heard DCY talk about it. As a purchaser, why would you want to incorporate to buy the practice? Why? I'm going to sit down. David Chong-Yam is going to come back, and he's going to go over why you want your corporation. No, it's simply the corporation has more after-tax dollars than you do personally because it pays at a lower tax rate, so it can repay that loan faster. So yes to liability. Yes, there's tax savings, but the major reason is you're going to have, remember that almost $800,000 difference when you borrow a whack of money to buy a practice yourself versus a PC? So you want to make sure that you create your PC to buy this practice, to borrow that money for all those good reasons. And on top of that, we've seen scenarios where people get non-dental lawyers involved to create the PC. Do you remember that one?
Yes, no, I remember them all. These are the things of my nightmares.
Remember that one? Remember that one lady who had like a 300,000? Well, she was a seller.
Yeah.
And she did not have somebody create her professional corporation properly. She said, well, so-and-so said that my daughter and my husband could not be shareholders. And we said, have you spoken to a reputable accountant like DCY who will tell you that's false and that they can be shareholders and you might want to use them as part of the sale to multiply that thing called the lifetime capital gains exemption? She said, I never got that advice.
It's always easier to do things right at the beginning than try to do it at the end and work backwards. A lot of the times you actually can't fix things. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. With corporations, professional corporations, for you guys dentistry professional corporations, you want to get it right at the beginning.
David Chung Yen in the back. Sorry, I love picking on you. 3 people multiplying the lifetime capital gains exemption. How much taxes could they potentially save at like the maximum? $600,000.
Does he win a prize?
Give it to him.
All right.
Remember, David, you're part of the contract. 50-50, right? 50 for me, 50 for David Mazel. That's how it works. Okay, so it's really important. Create your corporation properly. Make sure that the right people get the right shares at the right time. Otherwise, the CRA is going to get involved. You look confused, sir. Do you have a question about the need to incorporate? You just look generally confused. The whole presentation, he's been giving me this weird look.
How many people can get into my corporation now?
Include me, please. Yes, I'd love to. Technically not. Oh, in the back of David Shilton's van, right, David? Yeah. This is how David delivers money to people. He does it the good old-fashioned way. Yeah. Arrange financing. Go to your bank. TD. That's who I use. I love them. And the closing. So this is a partial shot of a dentist's arm doing a closing, and there's a line of tequila bottles. You'll notice they're all closed because documents need to be signed without the influence of alcohol. And then after, we break it out. Now, you guys are probably going to want to know how much our legal fees are. You see this one on the end here? If you can bring me a couple of these, we will reduce our legal fees tremendously. So closing. What happens at a closing? What do you guys think? Who here has purchased a house? Nobody? Yes. Okay, what happens at a closing when you're closing a house? Right. You're signing how many times? Like 200 times you sign. What else happens at a closing? No taxes, no. Sure, okay. So all the little mechanisms that go into closing happen here. So remember that truckload of money that Dave Shilton brings to your lawyers? We got to transfer that to the sellers. All the documents, all those trees that we killed have to be transferred and exchanged and reviewed, and the formal agreements, everything has to be signed a million times. Then the tequila comes out, then you go celebrate. Congrats. You're now the boss. Quick, what movie is this from? I want this side of the room to answer. All right, lottery ticket.
Wait.
Guy in the blue shirt, stripes. Okay, post-closing. What do? You've got this practice that you just bought, and you need to relax, but you have no money. But you do have skills. So you can volunteer in Jamaica with Russ and Dean and me and Lubisa and David, and Sandals will pay for your 10-day accommodations. You have to pay for the flight, you have to pay an admin fee, but it's nickels and dimes when you compare it to what you would otherwise pay. You get to help out, you get to have fun. They've got this alcoholic beverage I'm not very fond of, rum. I don't know. Their tequila's not that great. And the summary is, get educated, get protected, save money. Thank you. And the last point I'm going to make is this. When should you talk to your lawyers?
Oh.
All the time.